Warning, this video contains mild swearing. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello everyone, welcome back to another Train Sim World 6 video. Today we are at Chatham Station on Southeastern High Speed by Dovetail Games, and it's appropriate we're at Chatham today because it's only about a mile away from Dovetail Games' real-life HQ, and I thought, TSW these days, I've got a lot to talk about in regards to the game, and I just thought, why not we come here to as close as their headquarters as I can get, simply because that might be a good idea, and, like, it's appropriate, you know what I mean? And let's just watch this Class 395 Javelin leave, and I'll try to collect my thoughts. I haven't made any notes on this. Right, so where to begin? I'll just state it bluntly. Dovetail Games is slowly killing off Train Sim World, and a lot of people will take umbrage at that. I'm fine. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with people taking umbrage at my stuff, at the content I produce. Just as long as they have valid reasoning behind their arguments. Oh, hello. Hello, Mr. Shed. With an RHTT. Nice. Don't see that every day. Okay. Sorry, that distracted me. Dovetail Games is slowly killing off Train Sim World. Why is the reason for that? Quite frankly, money. They want to squeeze as much money out of Train Sim World as possible while doing as little work on the game as possible. There are several reasons why that is, because, well, they just want money. They want to show maximum profits for their shareholders, and yeah, it's just simple profits. And the game is suffering for it, like really suffering for it. Core issues in this game. There are some core issues that they've stuck around since the base game. Train Sim World CSX Heavy Haul came out in, what is it, March 2018? Like, Sandpat... So, yeah, start with the core issues. First off, ever since Train Sim World 3, the core game has had a lag and stuttering issue, and it still hasn't been fixed to this day, despite an issue that's being well over 3 years old at this point. Yeah, and you can definitely tell. Ooh, hello there, Class 700, heading to Luton. Nice. What was I thinking? Yeah. And there are a ton of other issues besides that, and I'll go into those issues in a bit, but the lag and other core issues that the game is having are starting to directly impact the gameplay of the game itself. First off, some timetable layers are just not appearing. If you're on Steam, for instance, if you have the Class 31 from Tees Valley installed, then the Class 86, depending on whether you have this bug or not, might not show up on Preston Carlisle, which is a pretty big bug in itself. Then there's the broken textures due to PCs can somewhat get around this by just brute forcing, and I haven't really experienced the issue myself, thank goodness. However, consoles are having a hard time because the way the core game is set up and the way it's just so woefully unoptimized means that the consoles are struggling to find memory, and that means the game just can't load textures because it's running out of memory, and that results in a blurry mess, and that looks terrible. And yeah, PCs, as I said, PCs don't really have this issue because in some regards they can brute force it by VRAM and stuff like that, but consoles are having a really hard time with blurry textures, especially if you've got 4K, 2K or 4K resolution rather than full HD set. Let's just watch this Class 700 leave. Yeah, tunnel lighting, look at that. That transition's mid, I'm not gonna lie. Where was I? Oh yes. Then there's the broken core features. This route, Southeastern High Speed, was one of the core routes in the Train Sim World 3 core package. And one of the supposed new features with TSW3 was dynamic weather, so you go along and the weather would change. I've currently got dynamic weather of a sort turned on. I've got Winzarton's live weather injector mod that's compatible with PC turned on, so in essence, this is real life weather that we've got running right now. Anyway, I digress. Dynamic weather is still broken after 3 years. If you go along, the dynamic weather transitions are very abrupt, especially if it's coming out of fog and into normal weather, and usually dynamic weather goes through the weather presets to heavy rain and stays there for the entire rest of your run, even if it's a long run. And that's just frankly unacceptable to have a broken core feature like that. Another core feature is the save game feature. So if I actually haven't got it turned on, but it's in this menu. You can hit escape and hit save game, and then you can come back to it later. But that's the advertised feature. In reality, that doesn't work, because if you're, say, driving along in winter, then the save game feature resets the in-game date. And what that means is, if you're driving along in snowy weather, you hit save game, you come back, the game resets itself to the 1st of June, I think. I think it's the 1st of June. It's a date around summertime. So if it's snowing, it just changes to rain, and the trees change over to green, and it just looks ridiculous. And that's one of the features that was included with the base game in 2018, 7 years ago. 7.5, if you want to nitpick, but anyway, 7.5 years. And that feature still has not been fixed to this day. Like, what are these developers thinking? You need to have core features that work. Next up, it's these absolute idiots over here. And I'm not saying that to belittle them. I'm just saying the NPC simulation in this game is completely borked and has been for years. Like, passengers will just stand around. Sometimes you have full trains, sometimes you have empty trains, even if you're on a passenger run. Sometimes there'll be passengers in your train while you're doing an ECS move. Sometimes they'll just stand in the middle of the tracks and you'll run them over. It's complete load of bollocks is what these NPCs are. And I'm sorry if I sound like I'm ranting a bit, but this is quite frankly unacceptable. Simrail, who are a Polish railway simulator with a much smaller budget and doing it in Unity rather than Unreal Engine, managed to do NPCs a lot better than they did them in this game. Like, the Simrail NPCs, yeah, they'll still get stuck sometimes and look somewhat ridiculous, but they don't have the number of bugs that these absolute plonkers do. And it's completely unacceptable from a game with a multi-billion-dollar budget. And, sorry, not multi-billion-dollar budget, multi-billion-dollar company behind it. Yeah. And I forgot to mention one last thing with the NPCs. When they get on a train, when they get to an aisle, They go into the door, get to the aisle, they disappear, and then they reappear in the seat. They don't have any animation for walking down the aisle and getting in the seat. Which is just... like, what? Like, what? Then, next up in our series of absolutely broken core features, we have dynamic suspension. And mind you, dynamic suspension is one of the few good core features we've had coming out of this game in the past few years. But even that isn't susceptible to a few minor bugs. The dynamic suspension on some trains, for instance, is just way too overpowered. I'm thinking specifically of the Class 378 Capital Star from the Mild May line, though to be fair, that is a third-party add-on and by Incredible Trains, and not a Dovetail Games product specifically. Also, and this is a Dovetail Games bug, Mein Spessartbahn, if you run a train on there that has dynamic suspension, the suspension bounces the train around so much that it looks as though it's about to come off the rails, and I'm not kidding. I've driven the DB Vectron on the route for Kensingtonbahn, which normally has completely normal suspension, but when you take it on Mein Spessartbahn, it just goes boing, 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 and nearly comes off the rails, especially if you're going at higher speeds. And it's just ridiculous. It looks ridiculous. Then, that was Trains of 1 core feature. TSW5, guard mode, completely broken. I'm not joking when I say it's completely broken. When, like, sometimes you'll get no tickets, sometimes you get tickets, but if you're in a multi-unit train, you can't access those tickets because you're in the wrong train, for instance. And then there's also tickets will be wrong. They're like, sometimes you won't get tickets, sometimes you'll get a million tickets in between two stops. It's broken, completely broken. And then, which is why I don't play it on the channel, because it just does not work at all. Then we have what was it for? We have track shadows, which you can't really see because it's cloudy, but like track shadows like along the side of third rails or stuff like that normally looks pretty good, except when you're at point, then they don't render. If it's just individual tracks, then they render on certain routes which have that support. But if you come to a set of points, they just de-render and don't spawn shadows at those points. It looks ridiculous. Again, it's completely broken. Then we have we have TSW6. And as I record this, for want of a better word, rant video, the TSW6 core features are completely borked. Announcements, while a good idea, have, like, sometimes they don't play. On Birmingham to Crewe, the Stafford announcement you can hear the Stafford station announcement from over 2 miles away for some reason, though that is again a third-party route, not a Dovetail product. But yeah. Then what else? Like, they're AI and not the real announcements, but if you AI it proper, like, if you know how to do it and you've got the proper prompts, then it could sound good, and in many cases it does sound good, but that's if they actually play properly. Then train faults are completely just absurdly broken. Like on the Class 220 from the Riviera line, it would sometimes just activate faults even if you had them disabled in the in-game settings, and in other cases it would just like do a fault every 5 seconds or so. Again, completely broken. The Dovetail games say they're working on it, but they've completely lost my trust, because after not fixing all the other core features which I've just mentioned, they I don't trust them to fix them. And I know that in Train Sim World 7, we will go through this whole debacle again, and that's another problem that I have, this yearly release model. And yes, I know about the free starter pack, so before you all go leaping happily down into the comment section to point out the free starter pack, yes, I am aware of the free starter pack. Basically, Dovetail Games has basically said that the purpose of yearly releases is to market a, quote, new game with a lot of outstanding core issues that have not been fixed, and basically it's for them to make more money and to push visibility to new players. Well, I'm like, what are you doing with all the players like me who've been around for years and have a bunch of core features that are still completely broken to this day that they still haven't fixed? And then there's also the problem of older routes. This route is a Train Sim Southeastern High Speed is a Train Sim World 3 era route. It doesn't have announcements or train faults or dynamic suspension like a bunch of the newer routes do. And there used to be a preservation team at Dovetail Games that I've heard this only via hearsay though, that used to have the job of preserving older routes and bringing them up to scratch, which is why a lot of old routes are still quite good up to this day. I'm thinking of Current Arkin with the new timetable, for instance, though that wasn't done by that preservation team. The timetable wasn't, I mean. But, or Sandpatch Grade, or what other routes? I don't really play older routes. Or Hamburg-Lübeck, or stuff like that. And yet, Dovetail fired all the people who were in that preservation team. I can't remember when it was. I think it was just before the start of the TSW3 era. And now, a lot of that preservation team maintained a lot of those older pre-TSW3 era routes and kept them up to scratch. Nowadays, that preservation team is simply gone. And the game is actively, and new routes newer than TSW3 are actively aging quite a lot because that preservation team isn't working on them anymore. And I've already gone over the yearly release model, haven't I? And then with this whole blurry texture issue literally plaguing the consoles, it's not, and I'm not talking just Gen 8, like PlayStation 4, Xbox One. I am talking about Generation 9 consoles, Xbox Series S, Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, and PlayStation 5 Pro, who should have more than enough memory to cope with TSW. It's an Unreal Engine 4 game after all. Excuse me. And yet, that just doesn't happen. The game, at its core, is just so broken that the consoles are forced to not load textures in order to load everything else. And that is just, frankly, completely unacceptable. Especially since a lot of people like myself have spent quite a lot of money on this game, and yet we're still plagued by a ton of core issues, and it's getting that still haven't been fixed, and it's getting worse. And yet Dovetail Games just tell us to suck it up and buy their latest DLC. They're like, in their latest November 2025 roadmap, they waxed lyrical about the latest DLCs coming up, most of which are actually third-party DLCs now that I think about it. And yet, they only included one core patch, which is just like core stability fixes and some minor improvements to the Birmingham to Crewe route by All Aboard Studios. And we have heard not one peep about them fixing any of the current issues the game has, and they still want us to pay £30 for a new route DLC. That is quite frankly unacceptable. The pace of DLC release by TSW is just too fast, and they need to slow it down to try to resurrect the core game while it's here. And yeah, let's just... Oh, hello, those guys just upped and left. I'm just waiting for this guy to get out of the way so I can continue my rant. And... I'm just... Yeah, and... Dovetail, at its core, is a money-hungry institution that cannot in any way tolerate negative criticism of their add-ons. They have a... Like, if you criticize one of their... if you criticize their stuff while on a live stream, like, if you say, like, can you please fix this issue, and why are you continuing to be a money-hungry corporation that's running this game into the ground, they will ban you despite you being completely and factually accurate, which is... Yeah. And we know that these core features aren't going to be fixed because in less than 1 year's time, they'll announce the release of Trains of World 7, and that means that'll foist even more core issues onto the game that will just break it even more. And the next year after that, we'll get Train Sim World 8, I presume, and the exact same thing will happen. Sorry if I sound like I'm just blowing my top here. Like, literally, this sort of corporate, to put it for better, to give... Can't even English. To put it bluntly, corporate bullshit is unacceptable and not tolerated by yours truly. So, I said it in the title of this video. What am I going to do about it? Oh, I'm going to do something about it, alright. I'm still going to play Train Sim World. That won't change. You'll still see Train Sim World videos on this channel, for despite the game's bugs, I love the heck out of this game. And it is a tragedy to see Dovetail Games running this game actively into the ground. But quite frankly, the warning signs have been there for literal decades at this point, when Dovetail Games took over... What was it? Took over the old... the then Kuju rail simulator thing in 2011, and then released Train Simulator 2012 back in the day. There was already all the warning signs there that they would do this exact thing, and Train Sim Classic still has a lot of outstanding bugs to this day that plague the base game. There are bugs still lingering from 2011 that still have not been fixed. But I digress. Where was I? Oh yes, what happened to Train Sim World on this channel? I already said that Train Sim World on this channel won't change, but I will switch my focus to third-party content. I will not buy any more Dovetail Games add-ons. There you go. Even if the add-on on the surface looks good, like for example, Zwolle to Groningen in the Netherlands. That's actually a pretty dang good route. But Dovetail can actually feel the pinch of having one of their longest customers stop paying them money. Well, mostly. I'll get onto that. I'm literally boycotting Dovetail Games add-ons until they fix this dang game. Class 700 coming in. And trying to think. Look, there's another outstanding bug. If I zoom in, that guy is a timetable service, but it still says check station screens. The destination display is broken. If you're wondering how I got that zoom, it's the God Mode mod. So I will be sticking to strictly third-party made add-ons. Like, third parties are the hope for this game. Like, the work of Just Trains, Train Sim Germany, Skyhook Games, Rivet Games to an extent, and then of third-party developers who haven't released anything yet, like Union Workshop, Vector Simulations. Those are the hope and the future for this game. And because they genuinely care about quality, and I will support them instead of Dovetail Games. I'll still get third-party add-ons. And the reason... I know a chunk of that money goes to Dovetail Games. But it's only a small percentage. I'm not sure how much it is. You'll have to let me know down in the comments. And a large chunk of that money goes toward the third parties to help them make this game, to help them make better add-ons than Dovetail Games. And I will support them. And, yeah. So, yeah, where was I going with this? There is one final point. Metro Rivals. It's Unreal Engine 5 with Simulgraph, and a lot of people think, including yours truly, that is going to be a genuine, is that Dovetail testing the waters for making a successor to Train Sim World that is like Unreal Engine 5 with Simulgraph. Let's just wait for this 375 to shove off. There we go. And quite frankly, quite frankly, I think Dovetail are going to think about replacing Train Sim World at some point, because the game's running on UE4 rather than UE5, and they have every right to replace it. But I will continue calling them out to the end of time if they leave Train Sim World behind for a newer sim without fixing a lot of the core bugs that Train Sim World currently has, and will have, I assume, then that will be the most evil thing that they will have ever done. And yes, I'm saying evil because sucking their customers dry and leaving them behind while they charge more money for a new game is quite frankly evil. And I know they're nice people, but the Dovetail people are nice people on the surface, but at the end of the day, all they care about is money, and they will not stop until they have sucked their customers dry, and I will call them out to the end of time on that. What was my point of all this? I didn't really have a point for making this video. As I said before, go watch that video by Train Sim Society where he does it, which is linked down in the description, that makes far better and more concise points than I do. I tend to ramble a bit, and I didn't have any notes, so yeah. As I said, I will switch to mainly focusing on third-party add-ons and keeping a focus on the add-ons I already have, because I might as well play them. On the Dovetail add-ons I already have, I mean. So, and I will only get third-party add-ons in the future, which I feel are up to snuff, because there are third parties that will try to rip you off. Athena Simulations, for instance, with their stupid 47484 Eisenbahn Kingdom Brunel pack, which is basically just a scenario pack and a relivering Class 47, but yeah, I digress again. Yeah. If you want to put pressure on Dovetail, send a... Look at this person over here. Did you see how he's struggling to get around? That guy. Anyway, if you want to feel like you want to help out and put pressure on Dovetail, I highly suggest swarming the support tickets for this game. Go to their support ticket things and categorically sent in bug reports, like cataloging every single bug that is wrong with the core game and Dovetail Games add-ons. And if enough people send support tickets in, like a deluge of people send support tickets in, then we might finally see change in this game. They'll realize they'll have to up the ante and finally give their customers. Isn't there an old business axiom? Can't remember. It's something like, the customer is always right. Well, we are at the end of the day, we are customers of this company, and if we make our feelings known about the state of the game, and we can put enough pressure on Dovetail to change things. And that is my message in this video at the end of the day. Putting pressure on Dovetail works by depriving them of money, for instance, or by sending 1 million support tickets in. We can make our feelings known about the state of the game, and then finally they might fix something. Anyway, that's all I had planned for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you want to see another rant video like this. I do apologize for anyone who's sensitive about swearing, but if you're on YouTube, you can't really be sensitive about swearing, because anyway, I thank you all for watching till the very end of the video. I will see you all in the next one, and remember, we can change things if we put enough pressure on Dovetail Games. And I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye, everyone.